afternoon and welcome. I'm Jennifer from Somerset County Family and Community Health Sciences Department, and I'm excited to share with you two versions of gazpacho. We're going to make the classic version, the classic tomato, and we're going to make a new twist on that, a watermelon gazpacho. So I think chilled summer soups are a great way to have a light meal, have it be nutritious and refreshing. So the first one we're going to make is the classic tomato gazpacho. It's actually a recipe, the Garden State Gazpacho from FCHS. Unfortunately, we have the annual tomato tasting at Snyder's Farm canceled this year. So this is the recipe that has been used. I'm going to share the link. It's on our website, but I will share the link to it. And I've halved it. I've halved the recipe just because I'll have a lot of gazpacho. That will be a lot to eat. So the recipe calls for plum tomatoes. I have vine ripened tomatoes, and I've already just cut them up and took out the seeds. So I have 3 tomatoes that I've just loosely chopped up and washed. Okay, next, cucumbers. I'm going to add a half a cucumber. I like using English cucumbers because they really don't have the seeds. So I've washed and peeled it. I'm just going to roughly chop it because it's all going to go into the food processor. I'm going to also add 2 cloves of garlic. Again, just a tiny little rough chop because they'll all go in there. And then I have half of a red pepper. If you don't have a red pepper, you can certainly use an orange pepper. And I have a quarter of a Vidalia onion, a sweet onion. Again, I've halved it just for me. So I'm going to blend this together. Get a nice puree. Okay, so that has a nice puree. I wish that you could smell the flavors happening in the kitchen. Right away when I open this, I can smell the garlic, I can smell the onion, I can smell the tomatoes. So those were the vegetables that went in there. Now I'm going to add some lemon juice. About a tablespoon, so about 1 lemon. Okay, this is good, not a lot of seeds. Okay, and I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Where's my teaspoon? Okay, 1 tablespoon of olive oil. And about a half of a tablespoon of red wine vinegar. Okay, it's got a lot of great flavors going on. And I have fresh basil, so I'm just going to tear some of that up and throw that in there. Oh, you know what, let's add a little dash of salt and pepper now. And we're going to adjust that probably when we're finished just for taste. Okay. I'm going to hit this again in the puree. I'm going to get my bowl and a little ladle. Okay, it's super quick to make gazpacho. So obviously, if you have tomatoes from the garden, that would be amazing. And then you can garnish it with a little fresh basil on top. If you have croutons, that's also, when you have the warm tomato soup, you can also add some croutons for a crunch on top of your gazpacho. But here's what the finished product looks like. Let's give this a taste. The flavors are amazing. If you love tomatoes, definitely check out this recipe. It will taste better chilled. So chill this in the refrigerator a few hours, and then it's ready to serve. But it's really good. All right, so our next recipe is taking a twist on this and making a watermelon gazpacho. Again, it's fantastic to be able just to cook and use a blender or food processor. Super quick. Okay, so let's remove these. So similar ingredients. What we're going to do for the watermelon gazpacho is just take a large tomato and puree that. So I've already washed and cut and took the seeds out of tomato. And we'll just give this a quick puree. All right, get that going. Okay, now we're going to add a little heat. This recipe calls for half a serrano pepper, and I just wanted to show you the difference between a serrano and a jalapeno. A serrano actually is hotter than a jalapeno, but you can certainly use a jalapeno. This is a really big jalapeno. So jalapenos are a little bit more plump, where a serrano is going to be thinner. But they're the same color, kind of have the same flavor profile, but it's spicier, so it has much more hotness to it. So really be careful when you are cutting it. Use the knife and be careful with the seeds. Wash your hands immediately for that. So where'd my knife go? We're just going to throw in the serrano peppers. This also calls for cucumbers. I have the other half of my English cucumber. So we're just going to chop that up. And I have a little bit of red onion that I've chopped up. About 2 tablespoons of red onion. Okay. Okay, now we're going to add the watermelon. So this, when I cut this up this morning, this was a ripe, sweet watermelon. It's real red, sweet, nice and firm. So I'm going to put about 1 cup of the watermelon in. All right, so we have tomato, serrano, watermelon. We're going to do 1 teaspoon of vinegar. A little more comes out fast, that's okay. And we did the cucumber. And we're going to do 2 tablespoons of dill. So we're going to garnish it, but we're also going to put a little bit in the blender. We're just going to give that a rough chop and throw that in. Okay. And 1/4 cup of olive oil. And I will post this recipe in the comments as well. Okay, I've made this before. This was my first time actually making this. I saw it on a food show, and it just looked amazing. And it's been one of my recipes in my books for several years. Now this has a lighter color because of the watermelon that was added to it. Let's get a bowl here. Okay. Now you can see this one is a little creamier, has a really nice color to it. We're going to garnish it with a little bit of the dill. And to give it a little salty bite, we have feta cheese. So we're just going to take a piece of feta cheese and just kind of crumble that on top. All right, let's taste this one. I really, really like this. It's creamy, it's fresh, it's light. I love adding the watermelon to it. And then what you can also do is take a little bit of your watermelon reserve and put a few small chunks in there. So if you have watermelon lovers in your family, they're going to love this. If you are entertaining, you're having a few people over for a small barbecue or a lunch on the patio, warm out, serving a chilled soup like the watermelon gazpacho or the classic garden state gazpacho would really make your meal elevate it to the next level. So I hope you've enjoyed the recipes. I will share in the comments the link to the classic gazpacho, and I will post the recipe here. Join me next Tuesday. I'll be back making another refreshing food. This is going to be a dessert. It's going to be blueberry cheesecake pie, no bake. So again, it's going to be something really refreshing and using something that's in season, blueberries. Have a great day.